Ladies and gentlemen, the revolution will be televised. Hello and welcome to episode number 70 of the TEW Challenge Run, and we are here today for the second ever all-women's pay-per-view, Evolution 2020. I've sort of gone through all sorts of stages of grief since I last did this, because the Super Showdown pay-per-view did knock us back down to medium, and I was angry and just had to take a day off to collect myself, because but then of course the stage of grief I got for more than a day, and I'm now at the acceptance stage where it is of course a challenge run, so I have to accept that shit like this is going to happen, and we move with a fresh start here back in the States for Evolution 2020. And without any further ado, let's just jump straight into the show. We start on the kickoff show in an abysmal pre-show match against a 29. It's like we never left. Aliyah James defeats Kaylee Ray into Ultra 57 with a pin by pinfall, and she becomes the new NXT UK Women's Champion. I felt like at least one, if not both, of the titles had to change hands, because it's like a special event for the NXT UK people and the NXT people to be on pay-per-view, so I decided that, yeah, this one could be probably change hands, because Kaylee Ray's held that title for long enough, and if not at Evolution, when? So she can probably move over to American NXT from this point on, and we have the new face of NXT UK's women's division in Aliyah James, who gets a 20, and Kaylee Ray gets a 30. 69-rated opening segment, just recapping all the big matches on tonight's show, the 3 title matches, and then Charlotte Flair and AJ Lee in their big match, her AJ Lee's first match in 5.5 years, here tonight at Evolution. We start though with a 70. God, it feels good to be back home. In a 78 rated match, Yoshirai defeats Asuka in 17-15. It is by pinfall with a moonsault. It says submission, but it's not a submission, it's by pinfall, because of Kairi Sane hitting her behind the referee's back and then Io hitting the moonsault to score a big win in her... It's not actually her pay-per-view debut, because I think her and Kairi had the impromptu tag match against Robert Stone Brand Unforgiven. So yeah, in her first ever single pay-per-view match, she gets a big win over a former Raw Women's Champion, former SmackDown Women's Champion, former 2-time Women's Tag Team Champion in Asuka. Asuka gets an 80 and a 69 for Io, and they have great chemistry, and they bang a 78, and that makes me feel a whole lot better coming off those dreadful Indian ratings, that 2 women can smash this out in an opening pay-per-view match. Jillian Hall, of all people, then comes out, and she says that we're sick of honouring the present, and of course the Trishas and the Litas and the Chynas of the women's division. There's a whole lot more inspirational women in this division throughout its history than just them people, and they all need a spotlight here on Evolution. So she's come out, she could do what she does best and perform a special Evolution song all about Jillian Hall and why she's great and why she's the most underrated member of the women's Evolution. And she goes to sing and her mic gets cut off, and then she picks up another mic, goes to sing, gets cut off again. Don't know why I'm dragging this out for. You know, basically you get the gist of it. She comes out and she sings like Jillian Hall does, and you probably know what the payoff's going to be, so I don't know why I'm dragging it out anymore. J-Flow interrupt, and they're all in the Tag Team Battle Royal up next, and they use this as an opportunity to outshine Jillian Hall and embarrass her here at Evolution in her one cameo appearance here in the Challenge Run. The Battle Royal itself, though, gets a 46, consisting of Bianca Belair, Billie Kay, Candice LeRae, Candy Floss, Carmella, Dana Brooke, Danny Jordan, Julia, Jessamine Duke, Casey Catanzaro, Kairi Sane, Kaden Carr, Kira Hogan, Lacey Evans, Micah, Maki, Mandy Rose, Marika, Marina, Shafir, Mickie James, Mina, Mizuki, Naomi, Natalia, Peyton Royce, Shotzi Blackheart, Sonya Deville, Tam, Toni Storm, and Zaya Brookside. and the winning woman will get a tag team title match with a partner of her choice at Survivor Series, with the final four being Sonya Deville, Bianca Belair, Kairi Sane, and Maki, and the final two being Bianca Belair and Kairi Sane wins it in 14:59 in a 46 rated match. Bianca got the most eliminations because we're making her look strong, even in defeat here. And who has any idea who Kairi might pick as her tag team partner? It really is a mystery. 67. Not quite as good as the opening match, but still pretty damn good. Shayna Baszler defeats Paige in 13:57 with a Kirifuda clutch. Shayna gets a 70 and a 66 for Paige. Their story gains heat. I think it would have got better if the story was hotter. Yeah, because it got killed, because everything got killed in India. But Shayna Baszler defeats Paige. She chokes her out here at Evolution to get not really a win for anything, just a nice win to get on the show, to have on her resume. 53 rated tag team match. Nikki Cross and Ember Moon defeat Alexa and Nia when Ember Moon pinned Nia Jax with the Eclipse in 10:54. Alexa gets a 56, 36 for Nia, 52 for Ember, and a 46 for Nikki Cross. So a nice win for the babyfaces, getting a comeuppance over their former best friend and her new best friend here tonight on the grand stage of Evolution. Mae Young Classic final gets a 37 because apparently they have little interest in both women. Melissa and Kylie Ray goes 14 minutes and 31 seconds, and it is Kylie Ray who defeats Melissa in 14:31 with a super kick to win the 2020 Mae Young Classic. She gets a 34, Melissa gets a 48. The match gets a 37, which is really good, especially because it got penalised for being a jobber match. But Kylie Ray then celebrates in the ring with Triple H and Stephanie McMahon with her trophy and her bouquet of flowers or whatever they give the winner. And Kylie Ray celebrates having won the 2020 Mae Young Classic. 57 rated women's tag team title match. And the longest reigning champions in WWE currently are Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. And that is no longer the case because in 15 minutes and 39 seconds, the legendary team of Trish Stratus and Lita defeat Raquel and Dakota when Trish pinned Raquel with the chick kick to win the women's tag team titles. 49 for Lita, 54 for Trish, 45 for Raquel, and a 61 for Dakota Kai. And so they will now defend the tag team titles at Survivor Series against Kairi Sane and whoever Kairi Sane picks as her tag team partner. The mind still boggles to who that could possibly be. 64, that's really good because there's no storyline and they're both in NXT. Rhea Ripley defeats Tegan Nox in 13:36 with the Riptide. Now, this is a feature that I am going to vent on really quick. Because, and again, if I am getting something wrong here, there is a mistake I'm making. Do call me a fucking idiot in the comments because I would deserve it. But I am a big fan of the fact that I could make this for the actual NXT women's title. I think that is a really good feature that they've put in this game. But you see here it says Rhea Ripley wins the NXT women's title. She doesn't. She retains it. But when I moved the NXT women's title to the main roster for this pay-per-view, it vacated it because I wasn't moving Rhea up. And again, there may well be a button that said move champion and the belt for one night. But if there was, I could not see it. So I moved the title up and the NXT UK women's title, and they both vacated. So this is technically Rhea's third title win for the NXT women's title. But it ain't going to end there, because when I send the title back down to NXT, it's going to vacate again. So instead of making it like the whatever defense of her second reign as NXT Women's Champion. This game is going to say that she just won her third and fourth NXT Women's title reigns. So I feel like I am missing something there. But if that is genuinely the mechanic, can we have that fixed, please, in the next patch? Luckily, NXT is sort of non-canon anyway in this save, so it doesn't really matter. Anyway, what is canon is the Raw Women's title. The end of an era, the last match between Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan for the title. Last woman standing. And it goes 1847, and it ends on the stage. They brawl all around the arena. It's not, of course, they brawl out. They don't leave. They don't go backstage. It's just all around the actual arena ringside area. And on the entrance ramp, Liv would take Ruby down with some kind of move, maybe like a flatliner. And then Ruby would get to her knees at 9. She'd be like, Liv, stop. Liv would have the chair. She's trying to put her old friend down for good with a steel chair. And then Ruby, she stops her. And she like pulls her hair back and she reveals like, no, is that? I don't know. Wherever Ruby has the, so I'm thinking of Liv now. I think Liv has it on the back of her neck. But wherever Ruby had the tattoo, because they all got tattoos of like the dates that the Riot Squad got called up to the main roster. And she's like, Liv, look, Riot Squad, we're best friends, Liv. It doesn't have to be this way. Sorry, I'm sorry for everything. And then Liv, of course, she has the chair in her hand. She was gonna hit Ruby with it. And then she sort of holds the back of her neck to symbolise that she's sort of remembering how her and Ruby used to be best friends. And she puts the steel chair down. She pulls Ruby to her feet and she gives her like a hug. And she's like, yeah, my best friends, sorry. Friends fight and all that. Then when she turns around, Ruby goes to attack her, but of course Liv sees it coming. Liv knows it's all a ruse because she's not a dumb baby face. And she uses the steel chair. She plants Ruby Riott down onto it with some sort of flatliner type move because her finisher is the one off the ropes. And that is what puts Ruby down for the 10 count. The ruse backfired, and Liv Morgan defeats Ruby Riott in 1847 to make defense number 2 of the Raw Women's title. She gets a 56, 63 for Ruby, and the match gets a 67. 68 rated match, AJ Lee and Charlotte Flair. AJ's again first match in 5 years, and it's been more heated than I thought it would be in the build-up. Because this is very personal. AJ has to win this match because she's put it all on the line, saying that she needs to prove that she's on the same level as the women of today, whereas Charlotte has been handed everything, so it's pretty much nothing to lose for Charlotte and all to lose for AJ. So she gives it all on her line. It goes 18 minutes and 4 seconds, and after a valiant effort, AJ goes for the Shining Wizard. It gets stuck and turned into a figure 8, and the crowd is begging for AJ not to submit. But in the end, the power of the Queen is too much, and AJ is forced to submit to the figure 8. In 18-4. 71 for Charlotte, 53 for AJ Lee, which is actually not bad for her first match back. But the Queen reigns supreme here at Evolution. And then we leave AJ Lee in the ring. I'm not sure if I put an angle in, so I'm going to talk about it here before I click next. Just AJ soaking up the applause from the crowd because they respected the effort she gave, and in fact, despite coming up short here tonight, she did prove that she is on that level and that she can compete with the women's wrestlers of today. I did not, so it's a good job I didn't skip forward. Sasha Banks Bayley, their first singles match since, well, on a big scale since TakeOver, the Iron Man match, but they've probably had some random match on Raw that I'm forgetting about that wasn't important. But we're going to wipe that from history if they did. We're going to hype it up as first time in 4 years. 5? 5 years? Yeah, 5 years. 2015. And they're main eventing this blood feud Bayley betrayed her best friend in her hometown in the main event of No Mercy. And it all comes to a head here tonight in the all-women's pay-per-view main event SmackDown Women's title. And the match goes 22 minutes and 51 seconds. And it's basically they're hitting each other with all they've got, and nothing can put the other one down. Bayley would hit the the headlock driver she does, and Sasha would kick out. Sasha would hit the frog splash, Bayley would kick out, bank statement by Sasha, Bayley would get to the ropes. Probably going to replicate the hand stamping again, because that's always a nice callback. And the thing where Sasha puts her feet on the bottom rope and kick back to roll back into the hold to get her into the center of the ring. But then, Bayley breaks out of the bank statement. And Sasha, she tries to fight it off. She goes back up to the top rope to hit another frog splash. Then Bayley stuns her and she's seated on the top rope. And then the crowd, at this point, they respect the effort that Bayley's put in. And they remember why they loved Bayley in the first place. And the adrenaline for Bayley gets to her head. She goes to the top rope. And she hits the big avalanche. Hurricane Rana. The big spot from TakeOver Brooklyn. She whips that out here at Evolution. But both women are down. Neither of them she can't make the cover. They just lay there for a second while the crowd lose their mind and applaud and shout, "This is awesome," or whatever. But Bayley's the first to her feet. And she's sort of taking in this adoration from the crowd, because it's been a long time since they've shown her this kind of respect. And she looks down at her hands and back up at the crowd, and they're cheering her on. They're going, "Hey, we want some Bayley." Because it's a heat of the moment thing. They're putting it all on the line in this match, and they respect it. And Bayley's not used to this. She's spent a whole year being the villain to these people, but now they're back on her side. And there is one thing that could possibly get the job done. All this talk about the old Bayley and the old Sasha. The old Bayley had no problem beating Sasha. And then that's when Bayley pulls. It'll be a funny visual. There's a hairband in her tights or whatever, or in her wristband. And as well as she can with the Karen haircut, makes a little ponytail out of her hair, tightens it up, and she hits a big belly to Bayley on Sasha. And the crowd loses their minds because the old Bayley's here, if just for one move. And she makes the cover. She gets the 1 and the 2. And then a pair of hands come out from under the ring apron and they pull Sasha's foot to the rope. And Sasha gets her foot to the ropes. And the referee's like, "Oh, we gotta break it up, there's a rope break." And the crowd can't believe it. Bayley can't believe it. She's in shock. And then Sasha tries to get to her feet and she sort of stumbles like she's hurt her knee. And then Bayley looks outside the ring to be like, well, who put Sasha's foot on the rotten ropes? And she gets clocked by someone's wearing one of Sasha's boss finger rings. Just smashes Bayley in the face with that and she falls backwards to the canvas. But then the knee, it was all a ruse from the SmackDown Women's Champion. She goes up top. She hits another frog splash on Bayley, this time scoring the pinfall to retain the SmackDown Women's title in the main event of Evolution. And then she calls the mystery assailant into the ring. And oh boy, that mystery assailant reveals herself to be Indy Hartwell. Now, I know exactly what has gone through your head. And yes, you have seen something like this before, haven't you? You sat there, you're thinking that Connell has stolen this from Candice LeRae in Indy and NXT. Well, here's the funny thing about that, and I feel like I can only, even though I'm saying it all the time, and I mean it all the time, but at a certain point, people are going to stop believing it's true. It was always supposed to be Indy Hartwell here, and I had this planned before NXT put her with Candice LeRae. and I can give you a whole mindset as to why. Because originally it was going to be Sasha, Bianca, and somebody else in a faction. And I was looking for someone who A, fit, and B, had excellent chemistry with Bianca, so I was testing it on like main event. I used Leah, I used Naomi, somebody else, and then her and Indy had excellent chem. And I was like, okay, that's a nice tag team for this stable. But then eventually I decided I didn't want to put Bianca in it. So then it became just Indy. And now they've done it on NXT and it looks like I've copied them again. And also, this was intended to be a double turn. I don't know if that was made abundantly clear through the build-up and the actual match, all the spots I told you in the match itself. But that is the implication. Sasha is now the heel, Bayley is... I say she's now the babyface because I'm sort of hesitant because she's not really going to change much. And the thing with the ponytail isn't like me saying, oh, she's going to go back to being old Bayley. Because I think there's a lot more legs in this version of Bayley. But she's going to be like she is now, but I just guess more respectful. And Sasha is the dickhead heel boss with her new apprentice, Indy Hartwell, by her side, celebrating with the SmackDown Women's title as we end the second ever Evolution pay-per-view. In a 78, which is pretty good. Especially coming off that disaster of a Super Showdown pay-per-view. The women, you really outdid the men this weekend. Give yourself a pat on the back. But what matters more than the actual ratings for the two pay-per-views is what you thought of them. So let me know what you thought about this one in the comments below. And I'll see you next time for Monday Night Raw, episode 71, back in the United States, as we begin the build to Survivor Series. See you then.